Viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following is intended solely for educational and entertainment purposes. No one expected him. The room had been tense, eyes fixed forward, every person anticipating the next witness, when suddenly, the back doors opened. In walked Will Smith. Gasps swept through the courtroom like a wave. Even the judge froze. There was no announcement, no pre-written statement, just Will, stepping forward alone. Until that moment, he had remained silent, his name whispered in rumors, hinted at in court leaks, and even linked to disturbing audio recordings too graphic to be released. But something had changed. Maybe it was the betrayal of people he once trusted. Maybe it was hearing that tape played behind closed doors. Whatever it was, Will was done hiding. He did not walk into that courtroom as a movie star. He stood there as a man who had seen too much and said too little. And when he finally began to speak, the courtroom was unprepared for what they were about to hear. What Will revealed about Diddy, about the parties, the manipulation, and the fear wasn't just explosive. It was a warning. It started like any other day at the Diddy trial. The room buzzed with hushed conversations. Reporters hunched over notepads in their designated rows. Lawyers whispered strategies. Everyone waited for the next scheduled witness. But then the side doors opened. And there he was. Will Smith entered alone. No entourage. No lawyers. No statement. Just quiet resolve. You could hear a pin drop. Some thought it was a mistake. Others assumed it was a publicity stunt. But the way Will walked, slow, focused, with none of that Fresh Prince charm, only a raw seriousness, told everyone this was very real. The judge raised an eyebrow. Diddy, who had been lounging smugly at the defense table, suddenly looked tense. Will walked straight to the witness stand. He didn't make eye contact with anyone, not even Diddy. "I wasn't asked to come here today," Will began. "I asked if I could speak." The judge allowed it. From that moment, the entire tone of the trial shifted. Because what Will was about to say didn't come from tabloids or social media leaks. It was something he had carried within himself for years. Something that began at a party no one was supposed to talk about. "I've kept a lot inside for a long time," he said. "I've smiled on red carpets, won awards, made movies about honor and strength. But none of that can hide what I saw, what I experienced, and who made it happen." He turned slightly toward Diddy. "You did." Will said it all began like so many stories in Hollywood, with an invitation. It came through a mutual contact, someone he'd worked with before. It was presented as a birthday party for Diddy. Just music, networking, a place for stars to unwind. Will had attended events like that before, so he didn't question it. But the moment he arrived, something felt wrong. It was at a massive mansion in the hills. Black SUVs were parked out front. Security was everywhere. The second Will stepped inside, his phone was taken. They claimed it was for privacy, to protect the guests. But Will felt it was something else. As if they didn't want anything getting out. Inside, the lights were dim. The music was low, strange, ambient, almost hypnotic. There were no cameras in sight, but mirrors lined the walls. It felt like someone was always watching. After a few drinks and some casual conversation, Diddy approached him directly. He said something like, "Now you're part of the family." And he smiled. But it wasn't a warm smile. It was a smile of ownership. Will followed Diddy into a back room, thinking they were going to discuss business. What he saw instead shook him to his core. There were people performing, men, women. Some he recognized from film and music. Some looked too young. Others were watching, treating it like entertainment. And Diddy? He was laughing, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. Will paused, swallowing hard. "I didn't know how to leave. And that was the point. Once you're in, you're in." A few days after the party, Will got a call. Blocked number. The voice simply said, "Hope you had fun, Fresh Prince," and hung up. At first, he thought it was a prank. Then an unmarked envelope arrived at his office. Inside was a flash drive. I almost didn't look, but I did. It was footage from that night, Will sitting on a couch, clearly out of it. I don't even remember being that far gone. But there I was, laughing at something I couldn't recall. Behind the camera, Diddy's voice could be heard. "That's how we keep him." The fear I felt in that moment was unlike anything I'd ever known, Will said. I realized I wasn't invited to that party. I was initiated. And that's when the manipulation began. He began receiving more party invites. He declined. Then, roles he'd been in talks for began disappearing. Colleagues stopped returning his calls. Rumors spread online that he was gay, unstable, cheating. I knew what it was. It was pressure. Diddy didn't have to say it out loud. The silence was the cost of peace. So for years, Will said nothing. He smiled through interviews, brushed off the rumors, and focused on work. But every time I saw someone else speak up, Cassie, Don Richard, even Meek Mill getting dragged into this, I thought, if they're speaking, why am I still quiet? He looked around the courtroom. Diddy didn't just ruin careers. He made people fear telling the truth. That, Will said, was what finally brought him to court. It wasn't just a video. That was the leash. From that moment on, Will said, everything he did felt like it had strings attached. If he declined a Diddy event, the punishment was subtle but swift. Projects fell through. Blogs posted bizarrely specific stories. PR teams distanced themselves. You start to feel crazy, paranoid, but then you see the patterns. You realize you're not imagining it. You're being boxed in. He recalled losing a major international campaign in 2013 with a luxury brand. Final negotiations had been underway. He'd already shot the first lookbook. Then suddenly, he was dropped. No reason given. 2 weeks later, another Diddy invitation came. He declined. And just like that, the rumors started again. He didn't have to say anything. He had systems, PR people, bloggers, producers. He knew who to call. Will explained that other celebrities were enduring the same thing, some silenced by contracts, others by fear. Then he turned to Diddy. You didn't just collect people. You controlled them. His voice didn't falter. He went on to describe Diddy's grip, not just on artists, but across Hollywood. You couldn't walk onto a major stage without brushing shoulders with someone he helped place there. He recounted a charity gala in 2016. Behind the scenes, powerful figures from film, music, politics, and tech whispered thanks to Puff, as if he were the glue holding the machine together. I watched a streaming executive hand him a USB drive and whisper, "Only you have the final cut." Will didn't say what was on it, but he made it clear. Diddy wasn't just networking. He was gatekeeping. He described the eerie submissiveness he observed in other public figures around Diddy, how they laughed too hard, deferred to him in every conversation. They weren't his friends. They were his survivors. Will stayed silent for 2 decades, fearing he'd be blackballed. But I realized something. I'd already been blackballed. Quietly. No official list. Just out, whispers, and closed doors. The only reason he remained visible was because the public refused to let him disappear. That's what Puff couldn't control, the people. He began looking back through old footage, photos, moments, and saw how Diddy's influence had always loomed, if not in person, then in power. Then came the moment that changed everything. Will's voice dropped lower. I stayed quiet for 20 years. I convinced myself it wasn't happening, or that it wasn't happening to me. But then, the audio started to surface. Thank you for watching.